ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid.
Hey, this is Chris Jones with Urbanlink Media. I'm here with Shane Hall as usual. We're going to talk a little bit about our previous episode with Versabuilt. Previously, Recluse Clutches, and our interview with Al Youngwerth. So I know you had an opportunity to watch the video. What did you think? Pretty interesting stuff, right?
What was super interesting to me is this, a genius in his own right is in our backyard. We're here in Idaho. How did you discover him down the street?
You know, actually, I wish I could say that I discovered him, myself, but actually I had a connection to someone that worked at his plant. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a background so you understand, Versabuilt is a company that does computer artificial intelligence, and they do kind of machine learning software that actually allows for you to assemble and then weld things together inside CNC machines. And they really started from a very innovative company that I'm very interested in, primarily because I'm a motorcycle enthusiast. And that company is called Recluse Clutches. And they were one of the first, I think they may have been the first company in the world to develop an auto clutch, at least a functional auto clutch, which means if you're riding a motorcycle, you've got your foot pedal and your handle and you got to do all these things. You no longer have to do that. The thing sets it up and then you get to go, right? I'm a road bike guy, grew up doing some dirt bike stuff, but primarily a road bike.
But I'm laughing because you've done Sturgis. You've done that trek.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody who knows about clutches and seats on a motorcycle.
Yeah, well, I ride in style. I like to have the comfort, the big boy. I'm an Indian guy, right? But I do see utility behind it, right? So kind of how the whole business started, and really where he made a mark in that business was developing this auto clutch. And that auto clutch essentially allows you to be able to shift through gears, and it recognizes when to downshift and upshift.
Well, and it was cool as the first one, right? He basically cornered a market that didn't exist.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And what was cool about that was he actually was able to build this clutch that had utility at first in kind of the dirt bike arena, right? And then later he found ways of bringing it to road bikes, and that became immensely popular. And they're sold all over the world. It's a big deal, right? So he started this company, started building it out, had a ton of success with it, right? But this is more mechanical-based engineering, right? But he comes from a software background.
It turns out that ultimately, cutting metal in a CNC machine is a lot of software. So I would say my software background really helped me understand what was going on and how to do it. And then kind of my background, just working on cars and motorcycles all my life, really helped me understand what's going on in CNC manufacturing. And so we pretty quickly built a pretty decent little manufacturing organization.
But at the same time, he seems like a really down-to-earth guy.
Oh man, he's unbelievable. He's super intelligent, and honestly, he was one of my favorite people I've interviewed. And I've got to interview a lot of really awesome people, right? But he was so intelligent and well thought through in his process that I just really loved it. And I really loved the humility where he just really got into what he learned at Recluse and how that transferred over to Versabuilt, right? So you've got this guy who's got this now mechanical background. He's now in the software thing. And that, which is where his roots lie, right? So he's back where he belongs.
But how diverse right there.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So really it came out of a problem. We've talked a lot about shifting. How do you identify roadblocks and how do you get around them and make yourself stronger from them? And that, he's a prime example of somebody who's been able to do that. He actually got into a situation where he started manufacturing a bunch of parts, because I'm sure you can imagine, especially in the dirt bike world, there's tons and tons of different types of motorcycles, different configurations of clutches, all this stuff. So he ended up building lots and lots of SKUs. What I mean SKUs, for those of you guys that haven't heard that term before, it's different parts that fit different pieces, right? So he's got, I can't even remember, but a lot of different parts he was manufacturing at some point. And he began to look at, manufacturing efficiencies. He began to look at, whip material. He began to look at machining and the cost of labor, all these things.
Probably one of the first hard lessons I learned was how to be a lean manufacturer. When you're doing small volumes and a lot of different parts, high mix, low volume, you need to be really careful about the amount of inventory you build. And one of the unique things about the off-road motorcycle market is that it's constantly changing. And so there will be one bike that's really popular one year, and then it falls out of popularity the next year. And so, and also as a new manufacturer, we learned how to cut metal pretty early on, but we didn't necessarily learn how to be a high mix manufacturing plant. And one of the key things to being successful there is having short setup times. Like if I'm making, this part today or in the morning, I might need to be making this part, later that
With
day.
the same machine.
Yeah, with the same machine. And so early on, we weren't really good at changing over between a part like this and a part like that. So what do you do when you have a lot of setup time? You make more of these so you don't have to come back to them for a while.
So, but anyways, he was able to develop this company that then became Versabuilt. His company was so successful that he sold it. He sold it, and he sold it to a major, brand, and that continues to grow and perpetuate. And it's a huge thing, and it's a huge anchor in Boise, Idaho. And one of the cool things about that is nobody knows what the frick it is. Right?
Dude, I didn't even know.
You
Like
didn't
you
even
brought
know
it
it was
up.
here,
I was
right?
like, this guy is awesome. You
Yeah.
watched that, everything you did with him, and I'm like, oh, that's Boise.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. In fact, we started kind of talking, and then I discovered some other companies that are here, like Fly Racing. Fly Racing is
Really?
a major brand. They were started here, manufactured here. They got a huge plant here, right? Boise's home to a lot of cool things. We've got Microns, we've got the Hewlett Packards, we've got all these really great things that are really based in software.
Here we were in Boise, Idaho, really kind of a Silicon Valley startup. Our two largest competitors, I think one had 20 million in venture capital and the other had something like 40 million in venture capital. And we were operating off of about $500,000 of outside of investment.
Well, and what's cool, nothing says entrepreneur than finding a problem.
Right.
Or he maybe stumbled upon a problem and then created a solution. And the whole business came from that,
Right.
How many people they find a problem and then create a solution? Because there's a need immediately.
Yeah, so what was really interesting about my conversation with him, aside from all the amazing technology that he developed, and it is really amazing. You watch it. I mean, I've never seen a machine physically pick something up, all based on software, assemble something, bring it into a machine, and then weld it together.
It reminded me of Terminator 2.
It kind of looked like that. It was like that robotic arm. Like,
I thought I was going to attack. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. So
I'm going to go destroy the lab. Sorry, Al.
What a collaborative robot is, it has two important features. The first one is a safety feature where they monitor their motion, and if they detect that they've collided with something, they'll stop. And they can be configured in a way so that you don't have to put the robot in a cage. Most industrial robots are in a cage because, as we all know, robots' primary mission is to kill people. It's not really true, but they can generate enough force that they can easily injure or kill a person.
Sure.
And so that's the first kind of barrier they break down to make the robots easier to integrate in their surrounding environment. They don't need a cage.
But super, super cool. And I really enjoyed the conversation with him. But you know what I loved about him? And it's a common theme, right? You have to be confident, but you have to have humility, and you have to know where your strengths lie. And I have never had the pleasure of ever interviewing an entrepreneur, especially an innovator entrepreneur, who can look at a situation and recognize I'm not the right guy to be the CEO. So he built Recluse Clutches, built it up to a point. He was kind of their chief engineer / CEO. And then he brought in a guy, mentored him up, and put him in the CEO position. And then the company was able to grow and prosper from that. And he was able to live a lifestyle and really be able to enjoy himself and really live off the fruits of his labor. Now, I don't recommend that for a lot of people. A lot of people are the right ones. I think he may have been the right one if he wanted to be. But the fact that he had the humility to recognize that, and he had the self-knowledge, the self-recognition, like within himself, to recognize that this isn't what I want to do. This isn't where I need to be. And for him to do that, that's amazing. And I hats off to him.
And to look at it was like a smart move for him, and it wasn't demotion. Most people look at this as a demotion, but he looked at it potentially as life. Did he explain why he did it?
Well, he said something really interesting to me, and I'm not sure if it was on or off camera, but he said, a lot of people look at that and they're like, why would I replace myself? And it's a threat, right? But what he said, which is totally makes sense. He's like, if I'm in a board position and I'm in a position to make decisions for the company that's in the best interest of the company, but I can step out of daily operations, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. He didn't want to be a daily operator. And although he was very involved, he's making board level decisions. So, you're leveling up, right? He leveled up, right? People see CEO and they're like, well, what's the next step? Well, I'm on the board of a company.
So what's the end goal? I have to ask you that because it's, another company and you've exited a few of them. So
That's a great question. I don't need to exit.
I don't mean in life, by the way.
No, I know. Yeah. With this company, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't have any driving concern to exit this company. I would say my one goal for myself personally is to stop running it on a day-to-day basis in 2021. My next major goal is to see this company really reach fulfill its vision and reach what it's capable of reaching.
He really did the right thing. And one of the other things that I really enjoyed about my conversation with him is he really dove into his first business venture and talked about the fact that during that venture, they capitalized their company wrong. They brought in the wrong types of investors, and then they diluted themselves, and then they had to exit, and they didn't make nearly the amount of money that they would have. He even paralleled it to the other company that grew, that wasn't even as big, that had a lot more capital invested, that wasn't operating as efficiently, and sold for like 10 times what he did. So he learned from that, I think. And I think that ultimately, when he came into this opportunity, looked at, am I going to capitalize this with outside investments? Does that make sense? Then he looked at, how I'm going to build this company, get the best return if my objective is to get out of the business, right? And so that's what I would say. I'd tell everybody here, if you're running a business and it's a lifestyle business, that's awesome. Hats off to you. There's tons of businesses like that, and they're very successful and they're very rewarding, right? And you can even build a big business, right? But if you're an entrepreneur that looks at an opportunity and you're like, hey, I want to build something special and I want to get out, you need to look at your time horizon.
Well, and you need to really define what out means and what your exit strategy is.
I think it's not just what's your expectation, right?
Yeah.
What, so like if I want to get out in 5 years, how quickly do I need to scale it? What's the opportunity cost to drive that kind of growth? And, what's my net? Right. And so, having a conversation with the guy as intelligent as he was, recognizing that, he and his partners at previous ventures, potentially made some decisions that, could have been framed or done differently or slightly modified, was amazing, right? Seeing that his ability to look and be, have some candor about it too, is like, hey, this isn't working. We need to look at how we can lean out, create efficiencies, not have as much inventory, right? Because our turn ratios need to be right.
Was he the CEO of the company before?
Yeah.
Interesting. And also have the ability to look through a different lens and go, maybe I shouldn't be the CEO at a certain number, at a certain point, and that's a good pivot.
I don't know. I mean, the guy was very capable. Al is, like I said, an amazing entrepreneur. I think he looked at it and he said, can I impact the business? That's that leveling up thing we always talk about.
Yeah.
Can I impact the business in a bigger way, in a different role? And he recognized that. And so hats off to him, like I said, amazing. And what's more, he promoted a guy into the role. He mentored him, he worked with them, and that guy transitioned as a CEO. So he leveled that guy up, and then he went on to be the CEO of the new company that was acquired.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, that division, right?
Yeah,
but
still cool.
The point is, he's given back to his employees in that way. He's allowing them to feel valued and really see opportunity in his business. So, man, I'm telling you, it was an amazing journey. Just kind of looking through his facilities and seeing how everything works. It's just mind-blowing.
On the tech side, when you're watching this robot basically go to work, right? Did it stimulate you creatively? What did it get you thinking about while you're watching this whole? You're watching it, you're watching sci-fi. You go back 20, 30 years, you're watching sci-fi and you're watching this guy and he put this to practice, right? Yeah. What did it evoke anything? Did it stimulate anything?
Well, my background. I come from, entrepreneurship, right? Like I've had 15 years worth of solid entrepreneurship success in that space. But one of the areas that I really, really got heavily involved in and developed companies out of is CGMP or GMP or CGTP, and there's lots of different fun acronyms, but manufacturing. Right. And so manufacturing controls are interesting to me from a process perspective, right? Quality systems, how you're going to manufacture, how you look at inventory, your raw goods, all these things that go into that is pretty expansive, right? And so for me, I was looking at it more from a learning lesson. I was like, oh, wow, what's he doing? could I have done in my previous ventures anything a little different here, right?
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that, right? So like I said, it was an amazing interview. The guy was super intelligent. The facilities were absolutely amazing.
And, Terminator 2 is being made there, so I got to go destroy the facility. Sounds like an Al. Al's making robots in our backyard. That's what I'm hearing. Al's making robots in my backyard, and I need to stop him.
Yeah, they don't make robotic arms. So I'm sorry, you're not going to do good there. But no, super cool. And I think, I'd obviously, encourage everybody to go check out his website. Check it out. It's Versabuilt is the name of the company, and then Recluse Clutches is the other one. And as I mentioned before, his start at Micron, his involvement in software development in the early Linux days really led to his ability to take kind of old stuff, old technology, and really repurpose it in this more expansive way that has a major utility.
Yeah, and now he's in a space, especially just in the simplicity of the clutch. Just that, take away all the complex and he's acronym you threw at us, Chris.
Yeah, and he's out of that now, right?
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, he's out of that. But what I'd tell you is the machine that he built has utility in CNC manufacturing, additive manufacturing, where they're doing welding. So he can actually help companies. Now he does a lot of consulting now. He comes in and he looks to see if this machine automation in that type of setting makes sense for companies. So like I said, it was absolutely amazing. He sells those machines and he helps support business growth and innovation. And I'm very, very happy to have had the opportunity to meet him.
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting him. He sounds like an awesome guy.
Cool. Well, hey, you guys were just tuning in to Urbanlink Media. We're a full-service digital marketing and advertising agency, and we run a publication called Urbanlink Magazine. This is Shane Hall, Chris Jones. We're signing out. Nice to talk to you.
I'm ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid.